My name is Claire Morgan. I'm 35 years old, and for most of my life, my family had one simple rule. If Claire can handle it, Claire handles it. I had a good job, a decent credit score, no kids, and no debt except my mortgage. My younger sister, Megan, had a completely different life. She had a 6-year-old son, a boyfriend who was always between jobs, and a talent for turning every financial problem into somebody else's emergency. But I never imagined my mother would put $27,000 of Megan's debt in my name. Not until I got a call from my bank at 8:14 on a Tuesday morning. Ms. Morgan, we're reviewing your recent credit activity. I was standing in my kitchen holding a mug of coffee. Okay, there appears to be a personal loan opened under your social security number. I laughed. Actually laughed, because I thought the woman had the wrong person. I haven't taken out a personal loan. There was a pause. Then she said, it's for $27,000. My coffee stopped halfway to my mouth. What? The account was opened 3 weeks ago. The current balance is $26,000, $36,417. I walked over to the kitchen table and sat down. Where was the loan opened? She gave me the address. My mother's house. I didn't say anything for several seconds. Then I asked the question I already knew I shouldn't ask. Who signed for it? Another pause. Your name is on the application. My stomach dropped, because I knew exactly what that meant. My mother had used my identity. But I still wasn't ready for what happened when I called her. She answered like it was a completely normal Tuesday. Hey, honey, you eating enough? Mom, what's the $27,000 loan? Silence. Not confusion, not shock. Silence. Then she sighed. Oh, that. Like I was asking about a grocery bill. Why is there a loan in my name? Megan needed some help. My grip tightened around the phone. Mom, you can't borrow money in my name. We didn't borrow it from you. You used my social security number. She needed the money. That doesn't answer my question. My mother became quiet again. Then she said the sentence that would change the way I looked at my entire family. Claire, you have a good job. I stared at the wall. She continued. You make more than enough. Megan has a child. She was drowning. Then somehow that makes it okay to put $27,000 on me? You weren't using your credit for anything. I actually felt my chest tighten, because there it was. The family logic. If I wasn't using something, they believed they were entitled to it. My credit, my money, my time, my stability, apparently even my name. I asked her one more question. Does Megan know? My mother didn't answer. That was answer enough. I hung up. Then I pulled my credit report. The loan was real. $27,000. A furniture store card. $4,800. Also in my name. Also linked to my mother's address. I stared at the screen. Then my phone buzzed. A text from Megan. Mom said you're taking care of the loan. Thank you. I read it twice. Then a third time. She didn't ask me. She wasn't thanking me for helping. She thought the decision had already been made. And that's when I realized this wasn't some desperate mistake. My family had already decided that the debt belonged to me. They just hadn't bothered telling me. That afternoon, I called the lender. The woman on the phone asked me to verify several details. I did. Then she said something that made my blood run cold. Ms. Morgan, the application was completed in person. In person? Yes. Where? She gave me the branch location. It was 12 minutes from my mother's house. And who verified the application? The woman hesitated. I can't disclose another person's information. I closed my eyes. I'm not asking for another person's information. I'm asking how someone verified my identity. Another pause. Then, someone presented a driver's license and supporting documents. My heart started pounding. My driver's license? Yes. I hadn't lost my driver's license. I hadn't reported it stolen. It was sitting in my purse. I looked down at it. Then I noticed something I hadn't thought about before. 3 months earlier, my mother had asked me to send her a photo of my driver's license. I had said she needed it for some paperwork involving my grandmother's estate. I had sent it because she was my mother, because I trusted her, because I never imagined I'd have to protect myself from the people who raised me. I called my mother again. This time, she didn't answer. I called Megan. straight to voicemail. Then I received another message from my mother. Don't make this bigger than it needs to be. Family takes care of family. I looked at those words for a long time. Then I opened my banking app. My savings account had $31,600 in it. My mother knew that. Megan knew that. Everyone knew. And suddenly I understood why they had chosen me. Not because I was careless, because I was reliable. Because I had spent years proving that whenever something went wrong, I would be the one standing there with a check. But this time, they had gone too far. I called the lender again. I need to report identity theft. The woman became very serious. Then you'll need to file a police report. I swallowed. Against my family? Yes, ma'am. I looked at my mother's message again. Family takes care of family. For the first time in my life, I wondered what would happen if I stopped. And I had no idea that within the next 11 days, my mother would beg me to undo the one thing I was about to do. Because once I filed that report, I wouldn't be able to control who got hurt, and neither would she. I didn't file the report that night. That's the part people always judge me for. And honestly, I judge myself too. I sat at my kitchen table until almost midnight, staring at the paperwork. $27,000. A number can look different depending on where you see it. On a loan document, it's just a balance. On a bank statement, it's a problem. But when you realize that number could destroy your credit, your mortgage rate, and years of your life, it becomes something else. It becomes a threat. The next morning, my mother showed up at my house. She brought banana bread. That's how my mother handled disasters. She brought food. She walked into my kitchen and put the loaf on the counter. Let's not fight. I looked at her. I'm not fighting. Good. I'm asking you to tell me exactly what happened. She sat down. Megan got behind. On what? Bills. How many? She looked away. Several. How many, Mom? She sighed. Credit cards, medical bills, the car, some repairs. I stared at her. So the $27,000 wasn't for one emergency. No, it was to pay off her existing debt. My mother nodded. I laughed bitterly. You consolidated Megan's debt under my name. She couldn't qualify, and I could. You have a good job. There it was again. Those 6 words. You have a good job. I stood up. Mom, having a good job doesn't mean you own my credit. She became emotional. Megan has a child. So do millions of people. You don't understand what it's like to struggle. That one hurt, because she was right about one thing. I didn't know what it was like to raise a child, but I knew what it was like to work. I had worked weekends. I had paid my own way through college. I had bought my first house. I had never asked my parents for money. And apparently that was exactly why everyone thought I had money to spare. My mother reached across the table. Just make the payments for a few months. Megan will get back on her feet. I pulled my credit report up on my phone. Mom, the first payment is already late. Her face changed. What? The loan is already delinquent. She went completely still. Then she whispered. Megan said everything was current. I looked at her, and for the first time I saw fear on my mother's face. Not fear for me, fear for Megan. That told me everything. I called Megan while my mother sat there. She answered after 4 rings. Hey, did you know the loan was already late? Silence. Megan? I was going to fix it. With what? I don't know yet. I closed my eyes. Did you ask Mom to put it in my name? No. Then who did? Another silence. Finally, she said, Mom said you'd be okay with it. My mother looked down. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I never asked me. I knew you'd say no. That sentence hit harder than the debt, because it meant they knew exactly what they were doing. They didn't make a mistake. They avoided my permission because they knew I wouldn't give it. I ended the call. My mother started crying. Claire, please. I looked at her. I am going to the police. She stood up. No. Mom, you don't understand what that will do. What will it do? She wiped her face. Megan could go to jail. I stared at her. And what happens to me if I don't report it? She had no answer. I called the police that afternoon. The officer took my statement. He asked me if I knew who had submitted the documents. I said yes. He asked me who. I looked at the paperwork. Then I said, my mother. He wrote it down. My hands were shaking. Not because I was scared of the police, because I knew what would happen next. My mother would call. Megan would cry. The family would say I had gone too far, and I would become the villain. But I signed the report anyway. Then I called the lender. The fraud department opened an investigation. They told me the account could eventually be removed from my credit report. But they also warned me, once we verify fraud, we have to follow our legal procedures. I understood what that meant. This wasn't a family argument anymore. It was a case. And 3 days later, my mother called me screaming because the lender had frozen her bank account. And that was only the beginning. My mother came to my house that Saturday. She wasn't carrying banana bread this time. She was carrying a folder. She dropped it on my kitchen table. You need to sign this. I opened it. It was a statement saying that I had authorized Megan to use my information. I looked at my mother. You want me to lie? It's not lying. It literally says I authorized the loan. You knew Megan needed help. That isn't authorization. My mother started crying. You're destroying your sister's life. I stared at her. No, Mom. I'm finally refusing to carry it. She shook her head. You have no idea what you're doing. I almost laughed. I know exactly what I'm doing. Then the front door opened. Megan walked in. She looked exhausted. Her 6-year-old son, Noah, was standing behind her. He was holding a little blue backpack. Megan looked at me. Please. I didn't answer. She started crying. I messed up. I know. I thought I could fix it. I know. I didn't think Mom would actually do it. My mother snapped. Don't put this all on me. Megan looked at her. You told me Claire would never let us go without. I felt something inside me break. Not because of Megan, because of the word us. They had turned my entire life into a safety net. I looked at Noah. He was watching all 3 of us. I lowered my voice. This isn't about making Noah suffer. Megan wiped her eyes. Then help us. I am helping. How? By stopping this from getting worse. She shook her head. You don't understand. I understand perfectly. I pointed at the paperwork. If I sign this, the debt becomes legally mine. My mother whispered. You can afford it. I looked at her. That's not the point. It is to us. And there it was, the truth. To them, my ability to pay was more important than my right to say no. I pushed the statement back. I won't sign it. My mother stood up. You're selfish. I said nothing. You've always been selfish. Still nothing. Then she said, your father would be ashamed of you. That one landed. My father had been dead for 6 years. He had always told me one thing. Never sign your name to something you haven't read. I looked at the paper, then at my mother. Dad taught me better than that. She froze. Nobody spoke. Megan picked up Noah's backpack. Akkur the Vidinov. Axelted. The bank accounts you Ramford's name order Nillerenge. Little Range. Rally visions. That are lava skiu. It's ready to burst about of you. There's failure things. Taui. 3 to re. Third. 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 As she walked toward the door, Noah looked back at me. Aunt Claire? Yeah? Are you mad at Mom? I swallowed. No, buddy. Are you mad at Grandma? I looked at my mother. then back at him. I'm just trying to make things right. He nodded. Then they left. I thought that was the end. It wasn't. That night, I received an email from the lender. The fraud investigation had found something important. The loan application had been submitted from a computer at a local office, and the login credentials belonged to my mother. But there was another document attached. A second application. One I had never seen. It was for $14,600. Same name, same social security number, same address. But this time, the applicant's signature was different. The fraud analyst highlighted one line: Authorized user, Megan Morgan. I stared at the screen. There had been another loan. My mother hadn't just tried to put one debt in my name. She had been preparing to move another $14,600 onto my credit. And the first loan was only the beginning. I called the investigator immediately. The investigator, "Call you stop the second loan?" She said, "It's already funded." My heart sank. How? Because your mother used your information to verify the application. How much? $14,600. I added the numbers. $27,000 plus $14,600. Empapulisatu, $0.00. That was when I realized something terrifying. My mother hadn't been trying to save Megan. She had been building a financial system where I was the permanent source of money. And if I didn't stop it now, there would always be another bill, another emergency, another signature, another reason I should help. So I made one final decision. I froze everything: my credit, my bank accounts, my cards, even my mother's access to the old family documents. Then I called the investigator. "I'm ready to give you everything." She asked, "Are you sure?" I looked at the two loan applications sitting on my screen. Yes, because sometimes revenge isn't screaming. Sometimes revenge is simply refusing to lie for someone anymore. 3 weeks later, my mother sat across from me in a lawyer's office. She looked smaller, tired, older. Megan was beside her. The attorney explained the situation carefully. The first $27,000 loan was under investigation. The second $14,600 application was fraudulent and had already triggered a separate review. Megan would have to deal with her own debt. My mother would have to answer questions about how my identity was used. Then I had one decision left. The bank could remove the fraudulent accounts from my credit report. Every conversation, even the messages where my mother told me, "You have a good job," I handed them over. My mother looked at me. "You're really doing this?" I nodded. She whispered, "You're choosing strangers over your family." I shook my head. No. I looked directly at her. Myself. She started crying. For a second, I wanted to hug her. Then I remembered the paperwork, the fake signature, the $41,600, the fact that they had never asked. And I realized something. Forgiving someone doesn't mean giving them access to you again. The investigation took months. Megan eventually entered a repayment arrangement for the legitimate debts. The fraudulent accounts were removed from my credit report. My credit score recovered. But my family didn't. My mother stopped calling. Megan sent occasional messages, some angry, some apologetic. I answered very few. Then one afternoon, almost 8 months later, I got a letter. It was from Megan. Inside was a money order, $150. She had written, "I know this doesn't fix anything. I just wanted to start paying back what I owe." I stared at it for a long time. Then I deposited it, not because I needed the money, because I wanted her to understand something. Responsibility doesn't disappear just because the person you hurt loves you. I sent her a receipt. Nothing else. A few weeks later, my mother called. I almost didn't answer, but I did. She didn't yell. She didn't blame me. She simply said, "I thought because you were strong, you could handle it." I took a breath. I was strong enough to handle my own life, Mom. Silence. Then I said, "But I was never supposed to handle yours." She didn't respond. Neither did I. And that was the last real conversation we ever had. Today, I still have a good job. I still have good credit. I still help people. But I don't hand out my financial information. I don't co-sign. I don't give anyone access to my accounts. And I definitely don't let anyone use my name because they're family. Because I finally learned something my mother should have taught me years ago. Having a good heart doesn't mean having unlimited credit. And if someone ever tells you, you have a good job, you can afford it, remember this: they aren't complimenting you, they're calculating what they can take from you. And the day you stop being their financial safety net, they may call you selfish. Sometimes the healthiest thing you can do for a family is refuse to let them destroy you. The debt wasn't mine, but the lesson was. And that was one bill I was finally willing to pay. Sometimes the healthiest thing you can do for family is refuse to let them destroy you. The debt wasn't mine, but the lesson was. And that was one bill I was finally willing to pay.